Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. Time for another inbox review, and today's inbox review is of the Academy Models 132nd A-18D Hornet Night Attack, and this is an absolute monster of a box. I have my camera up as high as it will go and zoomed out all the way, and it barely fits in the frame. So the box going around the side or on top, again, beautiful box art, like a picture, and you cut that out and it's going to be some nice wall art, and then you put it onto the side and you have some nice pictures of the built model right along in here, a couple pictures of a pilot figure along here, and you do have some flight deck figures as well on that, and then again on the other side some pictures of the built model as well. And then we flip it over to the other side, and again more pictures of the built model. So we're going to get the box opened up and let's see how packed this thing is with plastic. And it is absolutely jam-packed with plastic. So I'm going to get everything opened up and then set up, and then we're going to take a look at everything that's included in this kit. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, we have the typical Academy layer book, and this is a very, very thick book, as you can see here. I mean, it is monstrous. It's 40 pages thick. So, and then on top of that, you have the a nice little history about the F-18D and all of that, and then we have our legend down the bottom of all the symbols that we are going to be seeing throughout this. So we open it up and we get right into the cockpit, adding in our ejection seats, getting that all built up, and then our instrument panel right in here, getting that all on, and then our rudder pedals in there, and adding more detail parts into the cockpit. And then we're starting with our nose landing gear well, and there's a lot of detail that goes into that as well. Different colors to be painted and all that, so nice color call out for your landing gear. You're going to have nice accurate paint call out for that. Then after that, we are starting our nose landing gear. We have a metal core for our nose landing gear, and then plastic parts that go for detail around there. So moving along, looks like we might have the option to have the catapult bar in the up or down position right there. I'm not 100% sure about that yet, but it looks like we might have the option. Then we have our rubber tires that go in. We have the option of rubber tires or plastic tires. Then we're attaching that with our light system on there, and another bottle goes on there, and then we're attaching our nose landing gear into our landing gear well, and then our cockpit onto our landing gear well, and then we're getting everything sandwiched in to the fuselage front half. Then we have another piece to add in that goes over the rear part of your cockpit to close everything up. Then after that, we're starting our intakes and our engines, full length intakes and full length engines on there, as you can see. Then after that, we are getting our top and bottom half fuselage halves together with our intake and engine set in there. Those are going to be fastened together by screws and glue. So you do have a few other little parts to add into here as well. And then we're getting our wings attached to there. Looks like if you're going to have the wings folded, you are going to have to cut the wing tips off, and then we do have a few holes to drill in here as well. Then after that, we're getting in the side fuselage pieces on, and then our formation lights on there as well. So then after that, we're getting our front fuselage and our rear fuselage sections together with a nice little hump to go on to there as well to make everything together. And then we have our instrument combing for our Rio in the back. And then we have the intake faces to add on here, getting that all done. And I do have the seamless intakes for this kit as well, and then also the Quinta Studios interior stuff for this kit that I will be using for the cockpit. Then we're getting on these side parts to the wings, and then we're starting on our flaps right in here. Getting the flaps on, we have the option of having them in the up or down position. Just pay attention to which parts you're using right here. Then it shows you, and then your slats as well. Getting all that on, and your spoilers are right in here. And just a repeat for the other wing, and then we are working on our vertical stabilizers and rudders, and then our elevators, getting that all on, and then we're getting our exhausts on as well. Getting all that done, and then we have the option of having the exhaust open or closed depending on how you want to have it. Then we have a top nose part and a bottom nose part to go on along here, and then a few blade antennas to go onto the nose piece right here, and then you have your nose cone right in there. And getting your nose cone attached, then you have the option of having it closed, or you have the option of having it open with a full radar showing. After that, we're starting our main landing gear, getting those all on. Again, they're going to have a metal shaft to help support the weight of this model. Getting all the detail parts on that, again, option of rubber wheel or plastic wheel. For those, I will be using the resin wheels for those. And then we're just repeating for the other side, and more detail parts, and again a nice color call out for the inside of your rear main landing gear as well. And then we're just gonna have some extra detail parts to add on to your main landing gear, and then you're getting that attached into the fuselage. Then we're adding in our landing gear doors, getting all those on again, and then repeat for the front side as well, and then getting our tail hook on there as well. Then we have our boarding ladder and canopy, getting all that on. You have the option of having it open and closed, then shows you how to have and what parts to use for that. Then we have a bunch of antennas that we need to add, and our speed brake, we have the option of having that also open or closed. Then finally, we're working on our pylons, getting all of our pylons together and put on, and then it shows you if you want to have your wings folded, it shows you where to cut along the wings. So for this version, I'll be having the wings extended as an air-based, a land-based version. The decals I do have coming for this when they come out are the 250th anniversary decals from Flying Leathernecks, and those look absolutely outstanding. So again, moving right along, I don't know if this is a correction for some parts that were added later on, so we'll have to go back and forth to see what those what the differences are. Let's do that right now. So we know this. Alright, so A4. So that's the same. I honestly don't know what the difference is between these. Oh, this is for the wing fold, so you're starting over with the wing fold on here. Alright, so that's starting to make sense with the flaps and all that. Alright, so moving on, got our weapons all here. We got AIM-9 L for the wingtip launcher, and also a standard launcher, and then we have the AIM-120s and our launchers for those. AIM-7F or M Sparrows, and then we have our JDAM bombs and paveway bombs all along in here. Then we have a harpoon missile, Mark 82s. You have the standard Mark 82, and then you have the Snake Eye version, and then we have a harm missile and launcher, and then we have the a scam pod, and then we have a TINS pod and a FLIR pod all in here. So a lot of weapons options to be added, and then showing you where to add each piece on here. And then an additional layout of your external stores and where those can go. And then we have our pilots, getting those all added. We have Marine Corps ground crew, We have Navy catapult officer and some decals on there. I do know that Res Kit does have absolutely amazing flight deck figures for this area, for either catapult or just working on the flight deck as well. And it does show you the difference between woodland and desert camo schemes for uniforms. And then after that, we have our painting and decal placement for all of our ordnance right here, and then we have our common decal stencils for all of the aircraft. Then moving along, we have our options. So we have VMFA AW225 the Vikings from 2004. Then we have the VMFA AW224 Bengals from 2001. And then we have VMFA AW224 Bengals from 2002. Nice tiger scheme in there. And then we have the VMFA AW332 Moonlighters from 1999. Alright, and then we have the top and bottom profiles for these aircraft as well, along with our fuel tanks and pylons. So going on, and then we have our parts locating diagram, and the parts are nice and numbered on here. So if you have any questions, if you're having a hard time reading it on the plastic or need to know what sprue has what, this sheet right here has everything that you'll need. And it continues on to the back pages here, and a color call out. It doesn't say what manufacturers they recommend, but again, a nice color call out for that. Moving on to the decals. Decals are printed by Cartograph, so we know those are going to be absolutely great when they come out and go down absolutely amazing. Cartograph decals are absolute top notch. And going along here, we have some absolutely beautiful stencil detail. The colors and everything, the thickness of the decals, absolutely perfect. I'm thinking that with the decals from Flying Leathernecks, you're going to use some main ones for the fuselage or for the aircraft, but then come into here and use the stencil decals as well. So no issue with using any of that, because we know these are from Cartograph and we know they're going to be an absolute delight to use. And then these are your decals for all your ordnance, and also you have decals for your front instrument panels. They do have, well, they don't have the option of having it powered down. That's the one sad thing that is not included on this, is decals for a powered down TV screen or MFD screen as well. But you have all your decals for your weapons loadout. These do not say that they're printed by Cartograph, so I do not know if these weapon decals are of the same quality as the main decals are. Oh, here we go. They are printed by Cartograph, so alright, no worries on these decals at all anymore. Alright, so inside the box we have another box, and we have our nose cone right here, our radome, and the radome looks great. There's no issues with that. No seam lines down the middle. Looks like this was possibly slide molded, but yeah, so no seam lines or anything like that to deal with. You do have some like mold lines where you had hot and cool, where the plastic didn't cool at the same time. So you do have a little bit of that, but once you put some primer on there, you will not be able to see any of that on there. Then up next we have our metal landing gear for our nose landing gear and our main landing gear. Again, this is going to add a lot of strength to the model on that. And then we have our screws and screwdriver right in here. A nice full length screwdriver, unlike what Tamiya gives you, which is, I mean, meant for the people that work in the Lucky Charms or Keebler Elf factory. Those are the Tamiya screwdrivers. This is a normal screwdriver for normal people. Then after that we have our clear parts. Alright, so the main canopy, we do have a little bit of smudge on it, and a little, I mean, it should clean up, should polish out nice, but we do have a seam line all the way down the back side of this that we are definitely going to need to take care of. And as you can see in the camera, there are a good amount of scratches in this canopy, but it should, with a quick polish, you shouldn't have any real issues with any of that. And then on the front dash, again, you have that seam line that goes straight down the middle, so you're gonna have to take care of that. And then, but nicely, I do like the fact that they have this extra piece molded in here, so that way when you're connecting it to the fuselage, if there's any sanding or anything that needs to be done to really have that mate in nicely, you're not worried about hitting the glass work when you're working on that part. Okay, then after that we have our rubber tires, some very nice tread on it, some decent thickness to the tread, and then it does look like we do have sidewall detail on those tires as well. So some very nice detail on those. I actually might use these. We'll have to see. Alright, so now we're starting with the actual plastic of the fuselage and to build up the kit. And the rivet detail on these stabilizers look absolutely amazing. Some nice crisp detail on there with the panel lines and the rivets all through there. And again with these launchers as well, some very nice detail on there as well. So moving right along, a bunch of other detail parts. These are going to be your rudder pedals, I believe, and then your flap. So you have the up or midway or all the way down positions for your flaps, and then some more launchers right there. Again, some very nice detail all the way through, and your pitot tubes actually are not too thick at the very end. Those do look very nice. Then we flip it over to the other side. This is the actuator, I believe, for your, maybe for your canopy or for the nose landing gear. You do have a few ejector pin marks right in there, but those should not be a huge issue. This one might be a little bit of an issue to get to, but shouldn't be much of one if it is. Alright, so moving on, we have our next sheet, and this is our flaps, and up in our nose section right in here. Again, the flaps, the panel lines are nice and crisp on there, and then the front nose section, again, very nice rivet and panel lines through there. And then on the bottom section, you're going to have some grills, and the grills actually look very nice. Those should take a wash, a very fine wash, to really get that to show up, and that'll look absolutely great when it's all done. But again, all that is absolutely gorgeous. And when we flip it over to the other side, you're not going to see any of this, but you're going to have some flap insert, another piece that goes into here. You might have a seam line to deal with when these two pieces come together, but we'll have to see on how the fit is on that. So again, some nice detail all through there, and also it shows you where to cut, and there's no questions about where to cut when you are going to fold the wing. So it does have a nice little valley for you to put your saw in to get that sawed off and fit in. Same with these slats or spoilers back here, a nice demarcation line so you know exactly where to hit, and no guessing on that involved. Alright, so this is our first ordnance sprue, and we get two of these sprues, sprue number or letter P, and this is your harpoon missile right in here. Very nice detail on those, and then your ejector racks, and it does have a nice little arrow that shows you which side or which way goes forward on here, and then your Mark 82s with the difference between your snake eye and your conventional. And it looks like, nope, you can't have it posed in the open position, but again, some very nice detail. And your your AIM-120s right in here as well. So again, some very nice detail on your, starting off with your Hornets. Alright, so then we have another ordnance sprue, and we get two more of these as well. And these are your harms, your sidewinders, your GBUs, your paveways, and then your mavericks on here as well. And the detail on them are actually very, very nice on here. You're gonna have your launchers and then all the fins for your missiles and your bombs on there as well. Alright, so now we have the parts for our nose landing gear bay, and the detail on here, some very nice raised rivets, and then the cabling detail on here is absolutely superb, especially for ejection molding right in here. As you can see, that molding is absolutely amazing detail, crisp detail on there as well. So just moving right along, again, the rivet detail on one of your nose landing gear doors right here. Then we're moving right along for the outside of your main landing gear doors, and then your instrument combing. There's even a nice little texture on the front end of your instrument combing. Again, some very, very nice detail. Then we flip it over to the other side. This door has no ejection pin marks, so that's very nice. And then your other doors, no ejection pin marks on that one or that one, and then none on your main landing gear doors as well. So some very nice placement of your ejection pin marks so you won't have them on any pieces or anywhere that they will be visible when the model is all built. So again, very nice detail and very impressive detail all the way around. Alright, so up next we have our ejection seats and our cockpit tub and all the parts and bits that go along with that. The ejection seat, the sidewalls do look very nice on there, and then even the parachute release does look very nice. Some nice detail in there. Not as good as what resin would have, but again, very nice. And then on your cockpit tub, some decent detail on there. There is a panel, a piece that goes into that, so that will be added in. But again, I think I'm going to use the Quinta Studios interior for this stuff especially. And then our front instrument panels, holy cow, the detail on that absolutely looks amazing. For injection molding, that is absolute crisp detail. The switches on there, the dials, you can even see the difference between raised and recessed for these indicator lights for your dash panel, where you put in all your codes and everything into on your numpad right here. So moving along, we have our wing fold set along in there. Our tie down hooks, our tie down points are a little bit thick, to be honest, but they shouldn't be too bad. And then we have the Rio's instrument panel back here, and that also looks absolutely amazing. We have the option of having two different options right here, so both of those are very, very nice on that. So again, absolutely amazing detail all the way through. And even on our control sticks, you can see all the switches, the hat stick, the China, or the hat button, the China button, all that on there, and your toggle button. It's very nice detail on there. Alright, so moving on to our figures. The figures look okay for ejection molding. Moving along, I mean, they do look nice along in here. For, like I said, for ejection molding, they do look very nice. And all that. It looks like one of the guy's arms fell off and is in the bag, but don't worry, it's just a flesh wound. He'll be okay. So yeah, just moving right along. Here's your Marine Corps ground crew figure. Again, the detail on it is, for ejection molding, is okay, but I think I would rather, you can spend, I think it's like 20 bucks for a set of res kit figures, and all those figures are 3D printed, and the detail on those figures are absolutely amazing. Then we have two of these sheets right here for our pilots. Again, the detail is okay. We have the option of having the NVGs, which the NVGs are a little bit too short for NVGs, but the down visor does look okay, and you'll have the hose that's connected to that. And then again, the pilot figures, the uniform, the survival vest, they look okay. But if you're into super detail, definitely go with Reed Oak figures for your pilots, because those figures are also 3D printed, and the detail on those are absolutely jaw-dropping amazing when you see them. Okay, so starting off on this one, we have our forward fuselage section, and the detail on here, the panel lines and everything is just super crisp detail all along in here. It's going to take a wash. Very, very nice. You have pieces that go on the bottom here and on the top here. That's going to add the rest of the detail to really make it accurate, deciding on which version you're going to do. And along here with your gun face as well. Some nice detail on there. And then your intake faces, they're nice, but they are a little bit thick on the outside. They should be either rounded, and they are squared off, it feels like, on that. So that's the one downside. There are no ejector pin marks or seam lines in there, so that is nice. But maybe take one of the curved scribers, which, let's see. Maybe taking one of these across the face right here to kind of get that rounded curved look to it might help. But I think I have the seamless intakes for this, which I might be using for this. Either have them for this one or the F-18C, or both. I'm not 100% positive right now. But again, the detail on here, even on these vents, I'm hoping that will show up on there, but the vents on here, the grading on it is very nice and detailed. It's too bad the camera, you're really having a difficult time picking that up, but the detail in person is absolutely amazing on that. Then we flip it over to the other side for some landing gear doors. No ejector pin marks on any of those. These are your seat cushions for your ejection seats. Molded in seat belts, they look okay. Again, I think I might go with the resin seats for that. And then moving right along, our air brake. Alright, so we do have a couple of ejection pin marks right here and here and right here, but with the location of all those, and they are fairly shallow, so those should not be really a huge issue to take care of. The other ejection pin marks are on the back side of the ejection seat, and they're located inside this trough, but you will not be able to see those once they're inside the cockpit. Alright, so moving on, we're going with our wings. We have the upper and lower half of our wings, and again, the rivet detail on here is nice and crisp. No worries about any of that on both the upper and bottom. And then we flip it up, and then on our elevators, again, very nice detail. This is a different seam line than I've seen before on elevators for the Hornets, but I'll have to check and make sure that that is correct. And then we flip it over to the other side. Again, no real issues with any of that. And also the lines to where to cut for your folded wings are very pronounced. You're not going to have any issue with cutting off your wings right there. The one thing is, yeah, okay. you can kind of see the line back here. So this line is going to be rather, you're going to have to follow the instructions very closely for these lines right here, because this is pretty pronounced and you don't have much of a wiggle room for this one. But for this one, on the other hand, you have a lot of wiggle room to go wrong if you get it wrong on this. Alright, so up next we have our pylons, a couple more missiles over here, and then our engines along in here and everything, and then a fuel tanks and our exhaust cans right here. So the exhaust cans, alright, those are decent, I guess. If you're gonna want to build it out of the box and you really don't care about detail, those are decent. But I would recommend getting some Aries or Res Kit does have exhaust for these, and those absolutely look amazing when they're all done and painted. So I would recommend those. And the wheels look nice, and then the engine front faces, yeah, it's like who designed this sheet kind of took a day off, took a holiday, and kind of did a half job on these parts right in here, especially right in these three right here are kind of really lacking on detail compared to the rest of the kit. And then we flip it over to the other side. The engine exhaust, you're not gonna, or engines back here, you're not gonna see any of that. And then for the actual exhaust area, again, no ejector pin marks on that, so that's nice. But again, the outside detail, and then actually this detail on this side, so this is probably the side that is showing. Okay, so I take that back for them taking a day off on this piece. Alright, that's not one of the pieces I was talking about anyways. That piece looks very, very nice for ejection molding. The detail on there, very nice. But again, with photo etch and resin, it just looks a lot better than the injection molded piece. Alright, so now for this sprue we have our plastic tire options, and the sidewall detail on there is very nice. Now the tread detail on the sides compared to the rubber tires is non-existent on the tread detail for that. But all your other little parts, this part is going to be going into the back seat of your cockpit along with this part right in here, and then a bunch of other small little detail parts. And then these are your lightning pod pieces and a couple other sensor pieces right in here, and the detail on those, again, like the rest of the kit, nice and crisp detail, no issues with any of that. Then moving on to our final sprue right here, we have our upper, lower fuselage, our two side fuselage pieces, and our intakes. We'll start off with the upper fuselage. The detail on the upper fuselage is absolutely amazing. All the fine panel lines. You do have a little bit of a line or something that goes down the middle hump right here, and you can kind of feel it when you rub your finger over it, but you should be able to just take a high grit sandpaper or sanding sponge to that and take care of that little lump right there with no issues. So, and then maybe a sink mark. Yeah, that's definitely a sink mark right in there, so you're going to want to fill that with putty on that piece. But the detail inside your air brake, again, super nice detail on there. Then as you can see, all the panel line and rivet detail all through there. Alright, and then on the underside, again, with same thing with the panel line and rivet detail, and then your landing gear wells, as you can see right in there, some absolutely amazing landing gear detail. And I don't think you'll really need the Aries landing gear set for this. I think this will be suffice for detail for the landing gear well. And then the same thing with these two sides. These go to kind of sandwich in your intakes. These look very nice, again with the panel liner rivet detail all through there. And on the other side of your intakes, all right, now here's where we start running into problems. All right, so we have some rather large ejector pin marks right in here on all of them. So these down here are faintly raised, so we don't have much of an issue with those. But these, on the other hand, are quite raised and pronounced on those. I'm hoping that the camera will pick up on how big those actually are, on how much they actually stick up on there. I'd probably say about maybe half a millimeter to on how proud they are sticking up from that. So that's one major issue that I have so far with this kit. It's probably the biggest issue I have with this kit right now. So again, some very nice detail on the upper side and lower side. Basically everything on the outside of the kit is absolutely superb. But then again, on the intakes, and yeah, so intakes, major problem. Gonna definitely want to use the seamless intakes or intake covers, or try to take care of those. We'll have to see which route I go. Alright, so that's everything for the F-18D Super Hornet, or I'm sorry, not the Super Hornet, the F-18D Hornet Night Attack. And I can say from the kit from the outside, everything looks absolutely amazing on the outside. Alright, now the cockpit, it looks good, with some, like if you had the Quinto Studios interior stuff and maybe some resin cockpit or ejection seats, those will look absolutely amazing. Two major lacking areas in this kit for me personally are the exhaust. The exhaust looked subpar compared to the rest of the kit. The exhaust, they don't even look like they belong with that kit. They look like they belong in a Revell kit or something like that, versus this kit where they had super nice detail all throughout everything, and then the exhaust, they kind of half-assed it on the exhaust. And then the intakes. The intakes, I don't know what they're thinking. They should have put the ejector pin marks on the outside instead of the inside, but I'm not a designer on that, so I don't know if maybe they had to. Maybe that's the only way that they could get it to work. But there are seamless intakes out there that I will be looking into getting if I don't have them already, and then definitely going through that. And then the decals, okay, decals are from Cartograph. Those decals absolutely look amazing. If I was going to do that, if I didn't have or Flying Leathernecks weren't coming out with the 250th anniversary Hornet, and I would be doing one of these decal schemes. But the 250th anniversary scheme is absolutely amazing. It has the Iwo Jima, it has the tune, it has all the people names, all that stuff. I'm not one for doing non-combat aircraft, but this one absolutely looks amazing. I cannot wait to do that one with those decals, especially if we do in the club another build off where we do the Marine Corps. That one is definitely going to be my entrance for the Marine Corps one. So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing or inbox review of this and everything I've just said about the kit. Until next time, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment if you built this, or comment if you have any other questions about it. Also hit that bell button for notifications of when I post new content. And until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.